On the quest for making my backpack lighter, I've been looking through all my gear, including my headlamp. This is the Nightcore NU25 that weighs 55 grams. And I was thinking, is there a lighter solution to this? And that's what I've got here today. Dropping out the Nightcore for this little guy here. This is called the S2. There's multiple different companies that make this. I think this is a knockoff of a Rovivon flashlight. I don't have a Rovivon. They cost 4 times as much as this. But basically this is a tiny little flashlight. It's got a clip on it, you can see there. This clip just clips onto your hat, and then you just turn on the light, and that's your flashlight. Now there's a few extra benefits to this, not only being a lot lighter at 18 grams, but it's also a lot smaller. So I typically wear a vest harness pack, and it allows me to store it right in the shoulder there, so I've always got it with me. So the problem with a flashlight like this is it's just big enough. I don't want to have it in my vest harness pocket. I don't want to put it in my hip belt pocket. So this ends up going in my backpack somewhere, and when I really need it and it's starting to get dark, I just end up hiking kind of in the dark, pushing as far or fast as I can without it because I don't want to take my bag off and look for it. So having a tiny little flashlight like this always in my pocket is just a lot more safer, it's more convenient, and it just weighs a lot less. Now let's head into the dark and I'll show you the features of this and how bright it is, and then we'll talk afterwards about some downsides to this and how long this lasts. What we're looking at here is my little headlamp that clips on my hat, which is ridiculously bright. As you can see, this has no business being this bright and being this small. Look at this little thing. Why is this so bright? We don't know. We don't know, but we appreciate how bright it is. Let's go through the different brightness levels of this thing. So there's low. You can see it's pretty light. Medium. High. Even higher. Wow. By default, if you push it, it goes on. You let go, it goes off. Double tap, it goes on and stays on. Triple tap, it does this weird orange light, which is kind of interesting. If you tap it again, it switches to a blinking light. And then it's got this, I think this one's a UV light. And then a red light. This one's great for camp. So you're getting to late into camp, you need to cook, you want to keep your night vision, all this kind of good stuff. Very cool. This is a nice feature. And blinking light. And if you want to pretend you're a police officer, I know this is always a hot feature that people want on their headlamps. Oh, and it switches too. This is the police. So here's a cool function of this light. You can just clip it to your tent, and then look at that, nicely lit up. It's like a party in there. Just turn on those police lights and we'll be set. So you can see I got the light here hung up on the top. Look at this, such a great light. Digging this, but obviously if you want to maintain your night vision, you'd want to switch this to the red light like this. Now we've got the Amsterdam district here in the tent. After testing this out on the highest mode, it basically can only last for about 3 or 4 minutes before it downgrades it to a lower, down 2 steps. This has 4 levels of brightness, and the second level of brightness is the one you'd want to hike with. Levels 3 and 4, while having different brightness levels, both will overheat eventually. And some people think that is a downside. I actually think that's a benefit. When you have this thing on the brightest, it gets really hot and warm, but it doesn't burn you, so you can actually use this as a hand warmer in winter. My hands often get very cold, and just having a light that I can easily turn on, heat up my hands is actually very useful. So that's a pro or a con depending on if you want your flashlight to heat up or not. Now if you use it on the lowest setting, it'll last for a long time, but it's so light you can't really use it. You'd only use that in your tent if you kind of hook this on your tent, which is another pro. You can, as you saw, you can hook this on your tent really easily for a light, and the lowest setting is great for that, but you'd want to use this on the second level of brightness, and that I tested at. It lasts for 5.5 hours. Now, from what I've read, I don't own a Rovivon, which, if you're not familiar, is very similar to this. I believe the Rovivons last a few more hours than that, so I think it's a higher quality product, but then again, this was 18 bucks versus a Rovivon, I believe is up in the $50, $55. It's a much more expensive flashlight, so if you're looking for one that's cheap and effective, I don't personally hike in the dark very much if I'm going to camp. 5 hours, 5.5 hours is plenty of hiking time. I would likely only need an hour and a half max. This unit is USB-C rechargeable with a plug in the back. It also has a magnetic heel on the back of it, which you can use it to stick to a vehicle or anything metal. The unit does tell you when it starts to get low on power, it starts to blink red, which then if you're out in the bush, you know to plug it in so you have a functioning headlamp at night. The only downside of this really is the fact that when you put it on your hat like this, it shoots wherever you're looking, which is great. But often when you're hiking, you want it to be a little bit lower so your peripheral vision can see the ground. Because there's no adjuster on it like this, you can see how you can angle it and it allows you to adjust it. That's the only downside, is you have to basically be looking where you're stepping. In general, you are doing that though when you're hiking at night, but it would be nice if there was a tiny little adjuster on here to rotate it up like that. That's my only criticism of this thing. But for me, it's a no-brainer. If you're going deep in the backcountry, you could actually buy 2 of these. It still weighs less than the Nightcore one, and you'd have a backup just in case one gets soaked or destroyed or whatever. You'd have a second backup if you wanted to go that route. Personally, for me, it'll just be in my shoulder vest pocket. I always have it there. And one other thing to note is on the brightest setting, which you could technically do with the other flashlight too, but if you do this, it's really bad on the eyes. If a bear comes at you, you can do this, which will potentially blind them. I know when I do it to myself, it's absolutely brutal. And having this in your shoulder vest pocket right here, if you see a bear, quickly pull it out, boom. But if you're using like the Nightcore and it's in your pack and you're like, wait a second, bear, let me just get this flashlight out, and that's not how that works. So that's another benefit for a bear or cougar or whatever, bison or whatever sort of deterrence. You're pulling out your bear spray and you quickly grab the light, flash them in the eyes. You're more than likely to scare off something because they don't know what this is and they don't like it. So let me know what you guys think about this strategy, using this just with your hat. That's another downside too. I didn't mention you have to have a hat, but you can actually clip this on your backpack too. So I've tried it on my shoulder, it works pretty well as well. You just have to get the right strap. But if you guys know any downsides, let me know. I think this is going to be a fantastic strategy here going through the summer. I've already used it on one trip and it was great. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about this. If you want to check it out, I'll leave a link in the description down below. Be sure to subscribe and I'll see you guys in the next one.